Welcome back to eirweld and welcome to episode 1 of The Big Dream. So the big dream started here many years ago in my father's shed. You could say I have an obsession with sheds. I'll often pull over the van beside the road and photograph some interesting ones. I have a particular affinity with round roof sheds. If I'm away travelling or on holidays, it'll be me that'll be walking through the train station or airport with my neck craned up, wondering how all that stuff got up there and could I design something similar. I've built sheds all over the country for different purposes, big ones and small ones. Needed cranes and teleporters and tractors when I had them. I've got all the facilities to build a shed. There's no excuse there. I've built award-winning sheds for farmers, but I'm particularly interested in small little multi-purpose sheds, and that's what I want to do. So here we go. So like all good things, we're going to have to start with a design and a drawing. And truth be known, I've probably designed 6 different sheds for myself. This is what I've settled on. We're starting with a 20-foot shipping container. That's going to be where my bench, my power tools, my milling machine, maybe a lathe, a drill, are all going to be stored. My electrical distribution is all going to be there. And next to it then is going to be a large roof space for working on vehicles. It's going to be 6 meters wide, 8 meters long. It's going to be sheeted all along the opposite sides of the container, across the back. I'm going to have a large folding door in the front and a smaller access door on the side. I hope to have steel storage and a small bandsaw along one side. And to be honest, there's a lot of details to work out, but we will get there. And then the idea is if I have to go anywhere for a period of time, I can lock everything in the 20-foot container, have a dehumidifier in there so everything is controlled in a controlled space and it's not going to degrade on me. So this is the piece of ground I want to use. To the right here is our garage and office, and here we have a polytunnel and a kind of a potting shed. They're going to go. Might have to have a bit of a fight with the brambles first. So I've set out a line here and roughly worked out my dimensions about where the new shed is going to go, just so I have an idea of what kind of clearing I need to do. So basically the new shed is going to come all the way to the edge of the potting shed. If anyone wants a potting shed, it's up an advert. But there's a lot to do, a lot to clear, and a lot of ground to figure out because it's a bit slopey. So, day 1 nearly done on the shed build. Not a whole lot of shed building done, but certainly a lot of briars, a lot of thorns. But got this all cleared here. Got the polytunnel cleared. Found an old sign. I think that was 40 kilograms of coal for $12.50. That's a while ago. Took a lot of briars and shit out of the way. Had an argument about this, but that's for another day. It's got to go though. And yeah, pulled out a lot of stuff. So, and my camera ran out of battery. But I am a magpie, that is for certain, but there's an even bigger magpie nearby. Took me a few minutes to figure out what these were. These are off motorway flyover. Maybe they were going to be cattle feeders, I don't know. Maybe they're just shiny. So, I got the back cleared here as well. Had to wrestle with an old garden shed, or bits of it. Wrestle with more briars, more thorns. But anyway, I got my lines in, just roughly marking. So this is 8.5 meters or thereabout. That's where the foundation of my seat container needs to go. And up here then, I think I was going to make it 6 meters deep, but I think I'm going to go 8 now. So that little pegging there is 8. So in the grand scheme of things, it's going to make a whole pile of difference. It'll have to be filled anyway with maybe a bit of concrete. So yeah, day 1 done. Just get rid of this last load. I'm in the workshop, and one of the first things I want to do is make a little chalk hole, because I want to make a track on the ground that's the same width and shape as the roof of the shed. So tacking a few bits together here. So I need to put this on the end of a long arm that's going to have a pivot at one end, and it's going to be the exact radius of the shed. Sometimes you need to set these things up with shims and clamps. I find it's best to take all the stress out of trying to tack something and put a bit of time into clamping and shimming. That's one end. Need to do the pivot part the other end, so I've got a piece of tube in here. I'm going to tack that onto the end of the arm, and that'll be the radius of my shed curve. The other end of the arm is going to need to be pivoted in a socket. I've got a piece of tube in here, slightly smaller than the piece of tubing I've got on the arm. I'm welding that on the inside because I don't want a bead of weld to interfere with the arm and let it rotate freely. So here we are, cleared out a spot in the workshop. I've got a long piece of flat there as a kind of just a datum point that I can start welding things to. And it's the width of the shed, so it's approximately 6 meters. So, as I don't have a shed, I have to come to a shed to build a shed. And this shed is belonging to Bow Steel, and you can check out their channel there. They're on YouTube as well, Bow Steel. Yeah, and as usual, as you start building these things, you find that things in your way. And here I am, just testing out the chalk. Now, there are a couple of different ways I could make the curved roof for this shed. There actually is a ring roller on Bow Steel, but kind of one of these things you have to usually you have to get a piece wrong to figure out what you want. So I am going to try out a new idea. So here I am marking a bit of box section, 60mm box section, which is the same as what I'm going to use in the roof. And if you haven't got a clamp, you can always tack the other end of the piece to the edge. Now I'm going to cut slits in the box section, so cut on 3 sides, leave one side alone, and then the box should bend to the curve that I want. Now I did a bit of messing around, a bit of calculation, and I figured that maybe every 200 mils, so roughly every 8 inches, would work for me. If the length of the shed, the width of the shed is 6 meters, the curve is going to be more. It's going to be like 6.8, and divide that by 200, you get about 33 cuts. So a lot of cutting. So a bit of trial and error here, trying to see how wide I need to make the cut in order to get the curve that I want. So this is all just kind of set up for when I actually go put in the steel that I bought. And this was kind of the first evening I was at it, and you can see there that it worked pretty well, but won't lie to you, was daunted by the idea of 33 cuts. So I had to head away for a few days, so I had to kind of put everything away, let the lads use the workshop, and here I am setting it up again. So my plan is that this morning I'm going to build the jig to do the actual roof trusses. So everything else before this is a bit of R&D, a bit of research. So I'm welding on some place to clamp on the earth clamp. Now I'm awful lucky here in that the welders in Bow Steel are all on a gantry above the floor, so you can pull and drag and have the torque wherever you want. So this is the long arm with the chalk on the other end. And because I was away, I have to, and I'm resetting this up. I'm going to have to do it all again, but no harm. I often find that if you the first attempt you're not always quite happy with, so it's never, and you'll do the second time a lot quicker. So describing my arc. So using the ring roller, we did roll a piece of flat that's going to act as part of my jig. It took a bit of messing around with settings, but eventually we got it. So I'm going to use some offcuts to line to so this piece of flat wasn't exactly the curve I wanted, but it was over rolled. So I'm now going to use bits of offcuts. Blue toolbox is out for all the tools. I'm going to use offcuts to make this flat conform to the line that I scribed in the ground. So the line in the ground was the real starting point, and using the long arm, I can also now pull the flat into place to conform to the chalk. So I'm tacking the offcut to the main flat that runs across the width of the shed, and then holding that flat in place. And I'm doing it alternatively from side to side, so that I kind of work the flat from the center out. I find sometimes it's just good practice really, but if you start in one direction and work your way around, sometimes it can go awry. But if you start in the middle and work from side to side, the little issues that you have, they tend to work themselves out. So back and forth, adding pieces of steel to build up the jig. Now, as I said, the curve is about 6.8 meters, so your flat only comes in 6 meters. So I had two little pieces that we had used to set up the ring roller, and I'm cutting off the excess to either side of the main 6 meter piece, and I'm adding in the small pieces. So got to trim the small pieces to size. Again, checking with the long radius arm that I made up to make sure that this piece of flat, which is going to be what I'm going to clamp the box section with the cuts in it, that it's a true curve. And then I'm measuring the long way across, so that I'm using a kind of an arbitrary finishing point on one end, but I want to make sure that the other end is the exact width that I want the shed. Okay, a bit more cutting with the big grinder. There's actually a good bit of time edited out here, so jig making does take a long time, but again, no more than shimming things when you're tacking them. It's always worth putting the time in. I find that if I do something and I don't take my time and I rush it, something gets compromised along the way. and you're always regretting the fact that you didn't put an extra 10 minutes or 20 minutes into the jig. So I also had some help. So I'm explaining to the staff what the plan is. I've already pre-cut one box section based on my calculations with the sample, but it's a bit like a snake. It's because it has no strength now. There's every cut is on three sides, so I'm going to lay that down and start clamping that into the jig. I did this. There's 5 trusses, so I did this 5 times, and towards the end, I got used to it, and I knew exactly what width the cuts had to be, and I knew what kind of things to watch out for. Unfortunately, there was also times when I had to load the piece into the jig 3 or 4 times, clamp it, only to find that it wouldn't pull tight enough to the curve. So take it out again, recut it, and put it back again. And I know at one stage one of the post deal lads said to me, "Would you not just roll it in the ring roller?" And I looked at him going, "Well, I'm a bit too far down the road for that at this stage." But no, I have to say, once I got a kind of a method worked out, it worked out pretty sweet. And every one of them is going to be exactly the same. So now that I've got it all clamped together, I have to put a tack weld on every one of those 30 odd cuts so that the roof truss itself is going to conform to the jig. And I suppose the beauty about this method is sometimes when you roll things on a ring roller, depending on which side you have the weld seam, depending on the strength of the material, you can get slightly different results, especially over big curves. And that's exactly what I didn't want, especially since I have to look at it for the rest of my life, and especially with the roof covering that I'm planning on. I wanted them all to be exactly the same. So then I'm adding in a tie bar. So even with all this, once I release all the clamps, the thing did spring back a small bit, and there wouldn't be enough strength in the curve on its own. So I'm putting in a tie rod on them on all the trusses, and that meant lifting the truss itself up out of the jig so that it lines up with the tie rod, building a little jig for the tie rod so that they all go in the same way. And there was a bit of cutting to make sure the tie rod was right and the angle on it was right. But I have to say, I did it all up in CAD, and it was pretty spot on. The angles and everything were good. So here I'm using the tape to find the dead center of the curve. Again, the staff has given me a hand there today. It's a bit tricky. It's always a bit tricky holding the other end of the tape. Some would call it the fool's end of the tape, but that's doing the staff of this particular day at the service. So once I have the center, I'm going to have a tie rod, and I'm also going to have a vertical piece that's going to go up in the middle of the tie rod to intersect with the curve. So again, I want all of them exactly the same, so that when you look up at the roof, everything is uniform. So now that's one truss tacked up. So they're a bit unwieldy, so I need a bit of help to get the truss up off the jig. There it is. That's one complete truss. Okay, so making all those slits in the box section. I actually tried 3 different ways in the end, and I cut the first one with the angle grinder. I'm going to show you a clip of that later on. But I had this portable bandsaw sitting at home, and I thought, I actually hate grinder noise. I hate grinder noise. It just really, if I can get away without doing it, I will. So I thought this would be a really nice way, controllable way of doing things. And it was. So what I did was, I got the portable bandsaw, and I used that to cut the 3 sides of the box section. And then what I did was, I came along afterwards with the grinder and made just a small slit to make up the gap that I needed. But unfortunately, the portable bandsaw made by a middle bought from the middle aisle of a well-known company, shit itself. So we're back to the angle grinder. So the process was measure from each side of the piece of box section and find the center. I suppose someone is bound to point out that there's a massive bandsaw here in the middle on the bench that I'm using, and that's well able to cut things. Now that thing cuts things very fast, so not very controllable when you get down to the last piece. I could have set it up, but a lot of fiddling there, and don't like to mess with a piece of production equipment. But I did use the hydraulic vise in it. That was very handy. So basically, find the center, and then I had a piece cut of a larger box section, 70 by 70, with the kind of the arse end of it cut out. So it's kind of like a U. Did I document that? No. But anyway, I used that piece then, and I marked either end of that as I moved the box section through the vise, and then that was where all my cuts needed to go. Even the marking is a bit of a laborious process, but now, in order to go cutting with the grinder, it's time to get all COVIDy and stick on the mask. Definitely more comfortable after wearing it for a year or two than it was before. So then get out the grinder and start cutting. Someone may point out to my technique here that it's a bit dodge, which it is, but I suppose I just wanted to be able to see the line as best I could while using the vise, because I tried one sort of on the ground, and look, I'm getting no younger. The back started getting sore, but just keep moving through the box. Like I said, 30 or 33 odd cuts. Yeah, just a long, tedious process. Now, as the disc got smaller, I found that it was harder and harder to get the third side of the box. So here I am going back over. Now, this is, I suppose, the final piece that I made. This is one of the gable ones, so the tie rod is lower down. There's Tommy jumping out of the picture, and there's the other trusses all ready to go. So there you have it. That's my roof. I need to add the brackets now, but that's going to be in the next episode. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned. There's going to be a lot of parts to this job as it goes on, because we have a lot to do. But make sure and like and follow. Now, you all know I'm away a lot. I love coming home to finding some new delivery. So, ooh, look what got delivered while I was gone. Yeah, we'll have some fun with that.